let me give a word to my colleague, Alexandra Gavaruha, who is International PR Lead at Sigma Software and co-founder of UTEW Tech Tribe. Alexandra, please.
Thank you, Irina. Hi guys, hi everybody. Welcome to the conversation of the participants of Ukraine Tech Days in Israel. In February 2020, Sigma Software, with support of USAID and other partners, organized Ukraine Tech Pavilion at OurCrowd Global Investor Summit. And together with Ciklum, Beetroot Inc, Shalp, we presented our IT services to 23,000 participants of the summit in Jerusalem. In fact, the competitors united to the joint project. And today we gathered again to uncover challenges and opportunities of the Israeli tech market. So let me introduce these incredible people to you. Valery Krasovsky, Sigma Software, Semyon Bondarenko, Beetroot, Mary Hangelo, Indevelop, and Volodymyr Tsap, Shalp. And Eran Cohen, Ciklum. Hi, Eran. Nice to see you. Great view you have behind you. Is everything okay? Is Eran with us? We can't hear you, unfortunately.
Can you hear me? No?
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Okay.
You are with us right now. Hi, Eran.
Hi.
Do you see us well?
Very well. Thank you very much.
Great. So shall we start?
Yeah.
Great. And my first question to all of you guys. Unbelievable. Last time we met in Israel when we had a physical event and we arranged offline meetings, and it was still 2020, another year and another age. Many have changed in that time. We are living in a new normal now, and my first question to you will be about how COVID-19 has affected your business relations with Israeli companies or other companies. How have your sales pipeline changed? And if I ask you to say just 2 words about it, what would they be? Just 2 words.
So just 2 words from everyone?
Yes.
Okay, new opportunities.
Great, thanks.
I would say surprisingly positive.
Great.
I think it's change and transformations.
Thank you.
And for me, it's keep fighting.
Wow, and Eran.
Well, I think it's hard work.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Thank you. And my next question goes to Volodymyr and Mary. Throwback in February 2020. It was your first trip to Israel as a company, as business trip. And you were new to this market. And remember your impressions about people, about mentality. What would you do another way if you knew it before?
Really, to do something by another way, it's nothing. What was impression is for me is it's that Israel people and Israel mentality are similar to Ukrainian, because they have very interesting situation, war, economical situation, and so on, and it's similar for our market. And these people, it's very interesting guys who improve their new technologies, opportunities in their field, in their market, and make their country better. And I think that we must see and focus on their experience and to improve this experience in our businesses too, in our not IT businesses. I think that's in banking system, in insurance tech, and so on, and health system too.
Thank you.
Okay, I must say that I'm heavy. I very like to trip around the world, so this trip was more for business, but I got a lot of pleasure. The first that I have met so nice and so good people where it was very easily to interact. So they were very straight and they understand what they need from you and opposite what you can get from them. So it was very business directive where you can go and discuss the thing as they are. In fact, yes, so they very, very straight on their minds and thoughts. So that's the first impression that I came with. And another thing that I was impressed in local kitchen, not and it was very big surprise for me. And from that way, I see also new opportunities. I think to start maybe Malavach boutique here, something like that. But to be serious, I think that it's very closely tied our nations, because, as you know, from the history perspective, there are so much Israel people and Ukrainian people interconnected. Their families, more of 30%, I think, Ukrainian people have something common roots with Israel. And that make this conversation very pleasant when they also have external some external guys who try to beat them, but they keep strong, and this strong is in everything. And I'd like to have the same way in Ukraine, and I think it was very beneficial when we have this close connection between our nations. Thanks.
Thank you, Volodymyr. Thank you for sharing your impressions, Mary and Volodymyr. I totally agree with you, because I started communicating with Israeli people closely just 2 years ago, and I feel the same. I would say it's very similar to Ukrainian culture. And my next question will go to Simon and Eran, and it's opposite situation. You are native to Israeli market. You are
50-50.
almost native, yeah. And I'd like to ask you, what would you recommend to tech companies who are newcomers in Israel? Should they open an office there at once, or find a local partner first, or build their own network and engage clients and then search for an office and a local representative? What's the fastest way, by your opinion, to develop tech business in Israel? Eran,
Do you want to go first, since you're a bit more Israeli?
Yeah, I can go first. Speaking from the country itself, it's a tricky question, because first of all, it's tricky for me because you know what I did 8 years ago was actually something very specific, was to open an office in Israel, which was only myself 8 years ago for Ciklum, okay, and the company at the time. So that's from experience. I would say that's one way to look at it. That was 8 years ago. It's not the current market. I'd say local person is important. It's important culturally. I think when companies do that, they need to do a little bit more research than Ciklum did, because they didn't do anything. They just hired me. But that was a different market. So I think for this specific question, it's probably, first of all, you say to do it fast. I don't think this is something that should or can be done fast. I think it should not happen fast. I think the companies that have tried to do it very, very fast failed. One of the things that I really liked about some of the companies that I heard, like mine, is that for a year there were no concrete goals. It was just to open the market, find first few people that will talk to you. That's pretty much it. But there's no. The other thing I want to tell you and the panel and the audience is that there's no single solution. The way we work has evolved in such a way that almost every year it has changed. So I can't say, so 19 was not the same as 18 and 15 was not the same as 14. It's changing every year. And obviously, the ability to fly is important. Right now, it's not a possibility, but it's definitely an ability it's definitely important for opening a market or managing a market, but it's not enough. You need someone local. So that's
Thanks,
about
Eran.
mine.
Thanks, Eran. I was hoping you would give us some magic pillow.
Yeah, I also think there is no magical one-fit-all solution, and I majorly agree with Ron. I mean, there is no right answer to this question. Like, it really depends on where you stand as a company. Like, are you a startup or are you a large enterprise? Because for those, or are you mid-sized? Because for those companies, the answer would be different. I disagree on one part because I mean, that's actually how I started with Beetroot 5 years ago. I was based in Ukraine, but we were building up our business development efforts in Israel remotely. And as most business developers, my first instinct was, I'll go through my network, I'll talk to my friends, I'll talk to my ex-colleagues, I'll talk to my ex-boss, and actually all of them told me, impossible, you're not going to make it remotely. Like, you have to hire somebody internally, locally. Fast forward 3 months, we already had our first serious client interaction. Within 6 months, we had our first client, a paying customer. And since then, we're just delivering good work, and the network effect kind of rippled. So I think, again, like for a small startup, this approach was definitely reasonable because we're operating, on a smaller budget with more risk aversion, and this approach has paid off. But if you're a company like Ciklum back then, I would imagine that it would make sense to just make this bet, open up an office, have a local representative, and just go full on. So yeah, definitely not one answer to this question, and depends on your experience.
Thanks, Simeon. Thanks, Ron, again. And my next question is for Valery. Valery, your first visit to OurCrowd Global Investor Summit was in 2019, and I remember how you told me that it would be great to organize Ukrainian pavilion there the next year. And how did you come up with this idea? Why Israel? Why OurCrowd?
Thank you, Alexandra. It's an interesting question. I would start with our journey in Israel. So our company, Sigma Software, started to work in Israel due to circumstances that we had a cooperation with one of the startups in America, which was acquired by AOL, America Online, the company which has a big R&D office in Tel Aviv. And we started to work together, and finally we have built like a team of approximately 70 persons which worked very closely with an R&D office in Tel Aviv. So we have gained a lot of new friends, and I'm really happy about that. Then AOL was acquired by Verizon, then Verizon acquired Yahoo, then Verizon merged those two companies. And that was a really interesting and exciting time to see how difficult to merge the companies. So big companies, each of them costs like more than $4 billion, and each of them has a lot of managers with a lot of ambitions and stuff like that. So unfortunately, a lot of the managers we've been working with in AOL, they left the company, but maybe fortunately as well, because we kept very good relations with them, and currently we have a cooperation with a lot of new customers where they are working now. And coming back to OurCrowd, sorry for moving on from the question. So I was really excited to see such a great investment platform. We are not only in the service business, we have our own fund called Inspirium Laboratories. We also have Sigma Software Labs, an investment wing from our service business. We are investing into different startups in Ukraine and abroad. And it was so exciting to see such an interesting platform. Then it's not like just an event when a lot of investors and product companies are invited, but also a platform. So all of the startups that pitch from the stage in OurCrowd, they already invested by OurCrowd. So that's a point. So that you already go and see the real startups which pass the due diligence, all the processes, and OurCrowd already believes in them. And I actually didn't believe that such an event could gather so many people. That was amazing. I mean, the last one gathered more than 20,000 people. It's really hard to imagine that it's possible, to feed that number of people during the lunches also, and to feed them with the coffee, with all these things. And obviously, I'm quite sure there are a lot of deals around that. And I saw a lot of different pavilions, like from Australia. I was also amazed that Australia has so tight relationship with Israel. A lot of different countries, and then I thought, why we don't have Ukraine here? And then I shared this idea with Alexandra, who actually started to work with us as a business development lead in Israel and UK. And Alexandra supported that idea, and finally We made it together with our great partners, service companies, the representative from service companies who are together with us today as well. And that was exciting. I mean, it's like developing a lot of new business relations in such a great crowd. So that's a short story. I could speak more about that, of course.
Thank you, Valery. So guys, the last question. We are very brief and concise today. We were talking about a lot of warm words about Israel, a country of unicorns, and let's speak about challenges. Just in order our audience not be too relaxed about Israel, it still has a lot of challenges inside country, and I'd like to hear what challenges your companies are going through in Israel market. Please, would you share with us briefly? Who can start? Mary, Volodymyr? Thank you.
I can answer about that because we work closely with two different companies in Israel and try to build a sales pipeline on that field, on that country. But what challenges we faced? The first challenge is that when you open new market, you think that you will work on this market. But most of Israel companies are focused on the global market. So you work with another level of business, so you don't face directly to Israel company, but you face this global market where they target. And the first thing when we try to build that pipeline, that you need recommendations. So recommendations from exact member, or exact representative in this country. So when you don't have anyone that you have worked with in Israel, it's hard to sell something or say, I will work with you, okay? But it's more complex than in other countries where I don't need that direct recommendation from a local. So that's my first impression during maybe 3 or 4 years working with Israel companies.
Thanks. Mary?
Yeah, as for me, the most biggest challenges for us, as for young companies, it's more than 3 years, but really it's very young IT company. It's to rebuild all processes and strategies, because when you are working on currently Ukrainian market or Europe market, you have another things, another mindset and so on. When you start work with Israel and other companies from other regions and so on, you must to rethink all your goals or all your mission and so on, because when you work with Israel only to make a product, it's not enough. It's a country with a war, with a lot of natural situation and economical system situation and so on. So only quality on a product, it's not enough. You must to bring something more better and new services like security, like scalability and so on. It's first biggest our challenge is to rebuild our mission in our company. And second is, as Volodymyr said, when you start working with another market, you need recommendations. What was for us is plus that we start working with Ukraine, with big companies, and we have recommendation from biggest enterprise companies like LG Electronics, like Sakar and so on, who recommended us for other potential clients and potential partners. So it was the biggest plus for us. And third big challenge is to remake our mindset with face-to-face meeting. Because when you meet with somebody, with each other face by face, people believe you. They see you, they know that you are guy or woman, you are with blood, you are with dreams and so on. And to make this connection online, it's much more harder. So it was very interesting challenge for us as for young company and for all market too. And the last COVID situation, all this quarantine, first half of this year, it was survive. Business must to survive, and for this surviving, business must to change. And only now we see that biggest enterprise or middle-sized companies starting to change, to improve these changes inside, in their operations, in their products, and so on. So now I think that it's the better time to provide services, new services, to new countries, and to provide additional plus to your product to help other businesses and companies to change and to survive.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes. I mean, again, I think the answer really depends on your experience and where you are as a company. And I can actually talk a lot more about the opportunities rather than the challenges, but since we're here to talk about the challenges. So yeah, first of all, I think as a new company to a new market is getting that first client, especially if you don't have a reference, you need to build that trust. And it's definitely a lot easier if you understand the local culture, the nuances, and you can, you know, just by being a person from that culture, you will already by default have one level more of trust. So that's one. I think our second challenge after this has been getting like really big clients. And by that, I mean, you know, post round C, D, E, or even enterprises. And for that, I think, again, you need to have really close connections with people in the decision-making positions within those companies. And the third challenge is it's partly related to the Israeli tech ecosystem. So it's very VC-driven. And, you know, VC money has a tendency to end at some point if you're not generating revenue or profit. But we've been pretty lucky in that sense. So it's actually typically right 9 out of 10 fail. So I think in our case it's been 9 out of 10 still exist. So yeah.
Valery or Eran, who would like to proceed?
Yeah, I can do that. I think I would say that when it comes to the challenges, I also could reply in 2 words: price negotiation. I guess it's at least for us, but yeah, especially on the Israeli market. But I would like to differentiate between 2 states. I mean, so first, if you need to have trust. So if you speak to a person who really believes in you and you've been referenced, but someone that already got the benefit from your services and knows you and understand that you really care about their product like about your own product, like we do, then you don't have this challenge at all. So, but if it's a new customer, if it's a new person, so to say, then obviously it's very important and you have to build trust. And one of the things about Israeli culture, which I have learned also and I love, is the really relaxing atmosphere. But you have to be very careful because those relaxed people are very serious about the business they do. So this is a really exciting combination that gives you a lot of freedom about what you are discussing together, but then you have to be very serious about the business.
Thanks, Valery. Eran, the person who knows Israeli tech market more than everybody in this room.
Well, not sure, but you know, I grew up in this market, and I can tell you, first of all, I agree with everything you said. I'm trying to think about an angle that I can add from someone who is living in Tel Aviv. I can tell you one thing. First of all, I will repeat one thing, which is price. I think price is always in the center of discussion. Price negotiation. It's not just a negotiation. I think we have a challenge right now because the market seems very attractive to maybe hundreds of tiny companies. And they come in and they're willing to lose money. And the challenge is that eventually, business needs to survive, and companies like the ones represented here are successful businesses, and they haven't succeeded by losing money. That's not a way to. So it's a challenge that has always been the case, but I would say in the last 2 years, 8 years ago when I started, there was not a lot of challenge on the price because the service was a no. And now, when everything is big, we are big, the market is big, the amount of Ukrainian developers working for Israeli clients. I think it's in the tens of thousands. Different numbers that I know, but again, each one will have different numbers. What we talk about, few thousands 10 years ago to few tens of thousands now. So it's an order of magnitude bigger right now. And so it attracts a lot of, for lack of better words, a lot of non-successful companies that are trying to make a hit. And that's one challenge. I think the other challenge is also something that people, and we found it something that probably we focus our resources on is the relationship, managing the relationship with the client. It will seem kind of strange, but even for us living here in Israel, and my team is 80% account management and 20% sales, it's still a challenge. Okay, it has to be done from here, and it has to be done by local people, and it's still a challenge. The market is very demanding. The tech market in Israel is very successful. Makes a lot. There's a lot of funding coming in, and so they are allowed to be demanding. They should be demanding, okay? Because they make, they build companies that are sold for hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, and go to NASDAQ and everything else, and they need to be very, very demanding. And I think that's the biggest challenge right now. The biggest challenge right now is to manage the accounts. Yes, I know for newcomer to win new deals, of course, it's always, but that's obvious, right? It's to win your first clients. I remember 2013 for me, and was very tough, but it's not a challenge. It's obvious, right? So I would, from my point of view, I would say that if I listen to the other guys, I think pricing pressure and how to manage local relationship is probably, and it's an evolving challenge. It's always changing.
Thank you, Ran. So guys, this is it. Thank you so much for today's conversation. I was really happy to see all of you physically and remind our warm days in February 2020 in Jerusalem.
Hard to believe, right? It was in February.
It was in February. Can you imagine?
So,
it's this year.
And, I look outside and, the clouds look the same.
Yeah.
It looks the same. It's not, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's almost the same world, but it's not.
Yeah. New normal now. And
Thank you.
I wish all of you good luck and to overcome all the challenges with dignity and profit for your companies and for your families. Thank you so much again, and see you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Ran.
Bye-bye.